So this piece is upside down. A lot of the time I'll start coil building them upside down. That way I can get this beautiful sort of shape. And this here, okay, it's smoothed out. And so this here is upside down. And I'm gonna flip it over. I'm gonna put it on some foam. And then that way I get this beautiful organic sort of bottom. And I'll flip it upside down. And see, if you look on the inside, it's kind of ugly. But if I seal this piece, you will not see the inside. This wall here, I had it under plastic, so it's nice and malleable. Okay, so now I can go ahead and I can use this rib and I can continue shaping it before I add a new coil to the piece. And so now I can go ahead and I can maneuver it and add an additional coil. I just kind of use my hands to pinch it into a long rope. Some people roll it on the table, and then I will continue building with this clay on top. And I can add it directly onto this piece by pushing it down with my thumb. At this point, I'm kind of sort of looking at the form, and so I see this form is starting to move in, so I'll kind of start to follow that direction. And you see I kind of pinch the clay in the direction, and it's adding some height, and it's also thinning the clay out. So lately I've been thinking about vessels and returning to the vessel and making forms that have an opening, and thinking about that in terms of like the human body and us being as vessels. And as being an aging vessel myself, been thinking a lot about, you know, the insides of the human body and the fragility of the human body, and how while we could be incredibly resilient, we are also incredibly fragile at the same time. And it just makes me think about our desire to stay beautiful and flawless on the outside, while inside we're sort of these mushy, flawed beings full of, you know, blood and guts, soft and fragile, protected by this exterior. And I thought it would be interesting to just allow like a narrow opening to allow someone to see the inside of the vessel. So a lot of the time in my work, I will combine building methods. So sometimes I will combine coil building method, like the main body of this piece, and then I will add additional wheel thrown elements, like this little form, sort of, you know, globy piece here, that I will then attach to sort of create a little bit of a pause, a little bit of movement and interest in various parts of the form. So this piece has been completely formed, but it has been fired once, so now it is in the bisque wear stage, right before the glaze moment. So the issue or the challenge of doing a vessel with an opening, right? Because then it becomes a little bit more, you can't just address it like an art object, okay? Now it has an opening, now it has a purpose. So then it becomes more of a functional object. So then you can't just address it with a cold finish and do it in a rubber finish. You have to consider it from a functional perspective, and you have to consider glazing. So, and then it becomes a whole other animal. How do you glaze this? What color do you glaze it? And it can be limiting in some way in terms of color. I think that for something like that, this sort of runny, neutral color like this piece here would work really, really well with enhancing the lines and the shadows in the form. So these pieces are now bone dry. They have been altered and completed, so they're finished in their forming stage. So now they're completely dry and they're ready to go into the kiln for the firing, for the first firing. So here are some finished works. I call them bloop. The idea came from the word bloop, blooper, or a mistake. I started making these because I just felt like I wasn't sort of balancing life duties equally, and I always felt like I was shortchanging some part of my life. And so I decided to come in here in my studio where I feel sort of at peace and make these judgment-free sort of bloopers where I'm free to make mistakes, and I can sort of make these awkward, weird, biomorphic objects that are super colorful and super happy. So here I just wanted to mention that each and every single one of these little dots, polka dots, is completely made and attached by hand. None of these pieces are made with molds or anything. They're all wheel thrown or hand built. And so I just love how the color pops on this piece.